Welcome to Hidden London, Beyond the Surface. I'm Ava Chiraghi.
And I'm Sundus Mohammed.
And we'll be taking you on a journey from Whitechapel
To Leinster Gardens.
to Charing Cross.
As you know, there's always something hidden in London, and we're going to be showing you 3 streets which all have a secret behind it. The first is
Whitechapel. As you might know, Jack the Ripper, everyone knows who Jack the Ripper is, of course, but do you know where he exactly killed his suspects? We'll be taking you on this dark journey where you can follow us on the real facts of how they got murdered and where they got murdered.
Okay, so you'll be taking us on a dark journey, but I'll be taking you to Leinster Gardens. And over there, we'll be finding out that some houses are not what they seem.
And then finally we'll be taking you to Charing Cross. Sundus, tell us more about Charing Cross.
Well, at Charing Cross, there's a traffic island where we'll be showing you something quite out of the ordinary. And you'll be surprised at what you'll see beneath the surface.
Welcome to the Whitechapel murders. Whitechapel is known for its multicultural society and places of great historical importance of the British heritage. A particular area of Whitechapel hides a secret that is more suited to be a Hollywood horror film. But this is merely fiction, as beyond the surface of these houses lies a historical truth of Jack the Ripper and his victims. Here we are with the famous Dr. Donald Paulson. He's going to be here to give us more of an insight of Jack the Ripper. Our first question for you is, there has evidently been a lot of information going around whether Jack the Ripper was merely a conspiracy theory. What is your stance on this, and what evidence is there to suggest otherwise?
Well, I think the first thing to think about, we're in a society nowadays where people are conspiracy mad, so I think it's obvious that Jack the Ripper is going to be a subject where people will question the validity of his existence. At the same time, I think we need to recognise that there isn't Jack the Ripper isn't a really hard dried and cut subject. There's a lot of information we have about him, but there's also a lot of its innuendo.
There are many people who see Jack the Ripper as a villain, while a small percentage of the people see him as a different light. According to your research, is there anything that you could indicate Jack the Ripper's mental state which could highlight his actions?
I think looking at, and as I said, if you look at I don't know if you've ever read about the Ripper murders, but if you actually read about how he took his victims apart, you're going to say, would a sane person do something like that? We're talking about someone cutting someone from head to toe, cutting off their nose, cutting off their ears, going in, taking up parts of their body. The other thing about the Ripper as well, a lot of his murders at the end of the day were sexual. Not only would he kill women, he'd take parts from the women that were the most sexualized parts of the women. And so there had to be something going on there as well. And I don't think, the question needs to be asked, was that sane to do that? Was it sane to murder people like that?
Do you think that Jack the Ripper is a representation of Whitechapel, showing that the area is like a negative light?
Good question. Because one of the things you have to think about, this is Britain at the height of Victorian age, the height of the world power, yet at the same time you have this area which is an absolute slum, an absolute tip. You have pubs on every single corner, gin houses, people being drunk on every single corner. Virtually all the women, prostitutes. And the reason why they had to be prostitutes was because people basically sleeping overnight in a place. You need the rent, I haven't got the money, I'll go out to be a prostitute, get some money, pay for my rent. And so it can't represent the whole area. That's why it's so difficult to say whether Jack the Ripper, who it was, because there were actually a number of brutal murders, and a number of brutal murders going on even before Jack the Ripper. It's that type of area.
Duffield Yard is a narrow space between 40 and 42 Berners Street, but the street name has been renamed to Henrik Street. for the same reason as Box Row was changed. The name of the victim here was Elizabeth Stride. That's why on this street was basically dedicated to Elizabeth Stride Street. The name, around 45 minutes later on September 30th, 1888. In Whitechapel there are about 7 locations where women were found. But then there were the famous 5. The first victim was found on Box Row near a gated stable entrance, but later on the street name had been changed to Durwood Street, so the residents aren't aware of the history. The victim's name was Mary Ann Nichols. She was found on August 31st in 1888.
Annie Chapman was the next victim on Jack the Ripper's list. She was last seen at 29 Hanbury Street. 25 minutes later, her body was found dead in the garden.
Catherine Eddowes was found in Meath Square, which is more located towards central London. That day was considered to be a double event. The next victim was Mary Jane Kelly, who was found in her bed on November 9th in 1888 at approximately 10:45 at 13 Millers Court. Walking down all the streets that we have visited today, there would have been any speculation of all the events that occurred in 1888. This is just the beginning of the discoveries in London. Our next location is situated more towards the centre of London in Bayswater. You can see we have 23 and 24. Here there's something quite hidden about this street. I'm not sure if you can spot it yet, but if you take a closer look, you might see something quite hidden. Evidently there's a difference between these two houses which you might not spot straight away. 24 Leicester Gardens was constructed in the 1860s after the rest of the residents on the street. But the reason why this appearance is so different compared to the other houses is because it's actually quite fake. You might not spot it at first because it's quite literally designed the same as the other ones. In the 1930s, an anonymous individual invited 10 people to this house right here for a charity ball. But little did they know that this house was fake when they arrived. So in ways, they got pranked. The real reason why this building was built was to cover a section of a train, which is quite unflattering, especially for the residents around here. Let's take a look behind the house. As you can see, we're at the back of the building now. There's absolutely nothing here. It's actually really interesting. You get quite shocked when you see it. It's amazing! Can you believe there's a train station right there? Can you hear that noise?
Here we are at our final destination, Old Compton Street, and there might be something that you will be surprised to hear about. There's a street which is connected to Old Compton Street called Little Compton Street, but it's somewhere where you might not expect